of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump in Florida last year goes on trial this morning. Dana Marie McNichol tells us what charges he is facing.
Now, Ruth faces 5 federal charges, including attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate, possession of a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, assaulting a federal officer, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Now, he has pleaded not guilty to all of these charges. If convicted, he faces up to life in prison.
Ryan Ruth plans to represent himself in the trial. Last week during a hearing, the judge was frustrated at his lack of preparation. Attorney Mark Eiglish says Ruth has no idea what he's doing.
This defendant representing himself with certainty will turn that courtroom into a circus. The average attorney doesn't know every single rule of evidence. The judge at any point can find that if he's completely out of line, the counsel that's waiting in the wings should step in and assist.
Former prosecutor Katie Cherkasky says obviously Ruth is not a sane person, but he still has the right to defend himself.
That's right. And it is a very interesting constitutional issue here. Under the Sixth Amendment, a defendant does have the right to represent themselves pro se at trial. And a judge has to be very careful to not disallow that unless there is severe obstructive behavior, or really whether the person cannot appreciate the proceedings and is unfit to essentially stand trial. So it's the same standard as just whether somebody can stand trial for when they can represent themselves.
Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders joined New York City Democratic Socialist Mayoral nominee Zoran Mamdani on Saturday for a so-called Fight Oligarchy tour in the nation's financial capital. Sanders says socialism is the future of the Democrat Party.
Now, apropos that question, I find it hard to understand how the major Democratic leaders in New York State are not supporting the Democratic candidate. This is our guy. So we got another fight on our hands, and that is the future of the Democratic Party.
1 in 20 deaths in Canada are from assisted suicide, as all the safeguards that were promised when it became legal have been all but stripped away. Steve Jorrell reports the same thing is happening in the U.S. where it's legal.
In December of 2022, disabled and retired Canadian Army Corporal and former Paralympian Christine Gauthier asked the government for a wheelchair lift in her home to help her get around. No, said Justin Trudeau's government, we won't pay for that, but have you thought about just killing yourself instead? Indeed, medical ethicist David Prentice of the Charlotte Lozier Institute says the wheels have come off any safeguards in the Great White North when it comes to medical assistance in dying.
There aren't really any safeguards or guardrails in terms of this. It's kind of at a whim, and the default choice for Canada, at least, is to go ahead and commit suicide.
In 2023, there were 15,343 medically assisted deaths in Canada. Prentice says it's simply a math problem for the socialized medical system there.
It's a matter of cost-benefit analysis, and it's to the benefit of the government, not to the benefit of the patient.
11 U.S. states and the District of Columbia allow doctors to prescribe lethal doses of drugs, and Prentice says promised safeguards are slipping down the same slope as they are in Canada.
I mean, we've heard these stories as well in the United States about people who needed a fairly inexpensive and effective chemotherapy treatment. And no, we're going to deny that, but we will pay for your assisted suicide.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
And another day of cold and wet weather for millions across the East Coast.
A stationary front draped across the Gulf and the Southeast will bring unsettled weather along the boundary, especially for Florida, where showers and thunderstorms will linger. The East Coast could see some light rain and impacts along the shoreline. Stronger storms will be possible for sections of the central and southern high plains. A reinforcing cold front prompting the first frost advisories for the upper Midwest and interior Northeast. I'm Janice Dean.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
The mission of AFA is to inform, equip, and activate individuals and families to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and give aid to the church here and abroad in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. AFA upholds the truth that all human beings, including the unborn, are created in the image of God and are worthy of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim Wildmon, as the announcer just told you. And joining me in studios, Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And Fred Jackson. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning to you, Tim.
We hope everybody had a nice weekend. Got a lot to talk about, obviously, that's happening in our country and in our world. But we did have football. I know. Raise your hand. I know nobody did, but I stayed up for the end of the Bills, the Buffalo Bills, and the Baltimore Ravens.
I did not, but you were talking about it this morning at lunch today. I'm going to watch the highlights because it sounded like an amazing.
Well, there's probably a moral to the story. That is, the Baltimore Ravens led the whole game until the last play of the game.
There is a moral.
Yeah, is that don't give up, or there's no justice in the world?
Race. It doesn't matter how well you run it unless you finish the race.
That's a good moral to that story. Anyway, I was, as people know, I enjoy watching football, and so I'll watch anybody play almost. But that game was incredible, and you
were talking about how several times you almost said, "Well, I'm going to bed."
I don't know if you're a sports fan and you're watching a game and the game appears to be over, and you don't really care. I mean, so it's over. By that I mean one team is clearly going to win.
Right.
Okay, so there's no more drama, no more suspense, no more. Let's see how this thing ends. So I was like 5 seconds away from clicking the TV off. And I said, "No, I'll watch."
Because neither of these teams were yours.
Right. I didn't care who won.
You didn't have a dog in the
Steve
fight.
Tybor from 8 Days of Hope. He is an idol worshiper of the Buffalo Bills, huh? And he needs prayer for that.
Now, listen. That accusation is a two-edged sword, Tim.
Well,
let's just talk about Mississippi State.
Well, they won a game at the end of the regulation. Anyway, if you like college football and pro football, it was a fun.
You know what I like about football season is it goes hand in hand with fall.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
so relief from the heat.
And can I do a little segue here? Because we have our fall share-a-thon coming up next month.
Yes, we do, Ed. And what do we need from our listeners?
Well, we need listener stories. So we're gathering stories now to play during our fall share-a-thon, which I think is October 8, 9, and 10. 7, 8, 9, okay? 7, 8, 9. So I had that
October, like a month from now?
October, yep.
Okay.
And so here's the question we ask our listeners. Has the Lord used American Family Radio in your life? Have we been there or given the right thought at just the right time? If that's true, please share your story. We'd like to hear your AFR story. It certainly encourages us who are regularly on the air, but it could be a blessing and an encouragement to others. Tell us how Jesus Christ has used AFR in your life. So we are asking you to call and share for a minute or two. We can't air your whole life story, okay? So that's the kind of firm part. It's got to be a minute or two, and you might hear yourself during Share-a-thon. Our listener storyline, the number to call is this. Get a paper and pen. 877-876-8893. That's 877-876-8893 is the number to call for our listener storyline. Again, remember, a minute or two, how the Lord has used AFR in your life, and we will, for a lot of you,
please do this.
We'll play these.
I would ask
air.
people, please do this. If AFR has made a difference in your spiritual life, or whatever you want to say about it, we love hearing those testimonies.
Yes.
And playing those. So all you need to do is say, hey, this is Joe from, I don't know, from Macon, Georgia, and I just want to say AFR has, and then tell the brief story. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for, right?
Right.
Okay, what's the phone number and so you call this phone number and you just leave that message, true?
Yes.
Okay, what's the phone number?
There'll be, I'm sure, a little probably brief explanation.
Yeah.
Here's the number to call, 877-876-8893. 877-876-8893 is our listener storyline. Call and share for a minute or two, and you might hear yourself during Share-a-thon.
Okay, Fred.
All right. Well, one of the reasons people listen to American Family Radio, and we hear it on those testimonies that you're talking about all the time, is that they get news that the other mainstream media do not want to deal with. And we give priority to what we believe is important news for our Christian audience. I say all that to lead into a story that hasn't been getting much coverage, but it is important to us. You might remember back in 2012 Democratic Convention in Tampa, Florida. There was a debate on the floor whether to include God in their party constitution. Ed, you remember how that went?
Yeah, the delegates booed the idea
of
mentioning God in the it was the platform, I think.
Platform,
it was
yes.
Platform discussion.
All right. Move forward to this year, 2025. What, 13 years? All right. What you may not have heard, there was an interesting exchange last week. The scene was a committee, a Senate committee, dealing with the confirmation of a Riley Barnes, a former U.S. State Department official who has been nominated to serve as Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. During Barnes' presentation, he quoted Secretary of State Marco Rubio that emphasized the U.S. was founded on the principle that all men are created equal because our rights come from God, our Creator, not from our laws, not from our governments, end quote. Tim Kaine, Democrat Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia,
former
governor, is part of that committee. He was very upset that Mr. Barnes quoted Senator Marco Rubio as saying our rights, our laws, come from God. What you're going to hear is Senator Tim Kaine expressing his concern that people who say about our rights come from God. And then you're going to hear the response from Senator Ted Cruz, who also sits on that committee.
Mr. Barnes, I was struck by your opening comments, and I asked to get a copy of them so I could read them and make sure I quoted them correctly. You state, and this is a quote from Secretary Rubio, our rights come from God, our Creator, not from our laws, not from our governments. I find that very, very troubling. I'm a devout person. I was a missionary in Honduras. We've got other devout folks in this room, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, American. The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the Creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their Creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
Mr. Barnes, I'd actually like to go back to the exchange you had with Senator Kaine, and I wish Senator Kaine was still here. Senator Kaine and I were elected together 13 years ago. He is a friend. I would actually encourage observers to go back and listen to what Senator Kaine said, because I have to say I think was disturbing and showed much of where today's Democrat Party has gone wrong. So Senator Kaine said in this hearing that he found it a radical and dangerous notion that you would say our rights came from God and not from government. I just walked into the hearing as he was saying that, and I almost fell out of my chair. because that radical and dangerous notion, in his words, is literally the founding principle upon which the United States of America was created. And if you do not believe me, and you made reference to this, Mr. Barnes, then you can believe perhaps the most prominent Virginian to ever serve, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in the Declaration of Independence, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator, not by government, not by the Democratic National Committee, but by God, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I have to say it is stunning to me that the principle that God has given us natural rights is now deemed by Democrats some radical and dangerous notion. Mr. Jefferson was right when he wrote those words. Government exists to protect those rights. But slavery was not okay when U.S. law allowed it. It was wrong then, it is wrong now, it is always wrong.
There you have it.
Listen, by the way, Abraham Lincoln, who won the presidency in part because of his hostility towards slavery. The Republican Party itself was founded a few years before Lincoln won the presidency in 1860 on the basis of an abolitionist platform. We got to get rid of slavery. By the way, it was also established, the Republican Party, against polygamy. Those two things. And Abraham Lincoln, for the time he was leading this country during the Civil War, based his arguments against slavery on this statement in the Declaration of Independence. You can. This is very easy to find for Senator Kane, if he was at all interested, to find out that exactly as Senator Cruz is saying, the battle against slavery and the overturning of laws that supported slavery was based on the principles of the Declaration of Independence. And let me tell you, Senator Kane ought to be ashamed of himself. He's not. But the Democratic Party, to Ted Cruz's point, has become an anti-God party. This is over the last 50 years or so, to the point where they believe the government is the one who gives you the rights. Well, as has been popularly said for decades now, and probably since the founding, if the government gives you your rights, the government can take away your rights. And we saw that for 4 years under Joe Biden as president. We have another story we'll deal with later on in the program, if we can get to it, in terms of what the Trump administration is finding out in terms of anti-Christian bigotry within the Biden administration. Listen, as Tim has said, this is our culture war in this country is at its heart a war about God. And the Democratic Party hates them, and they're doing everything they can to try to scrub out the biblical principles undergirding this country. And if God has mercy on our nation, they will fail utterly.
And Senator Kane, who, by the way, was Hillary Clinton's VP running mate.
Yes. That's true.
In
That's
2016. Right. So he's very well established leader in the Democrat Party and former governor, as you said, of Virginia. But of all people, him from Virginia should know better than to say what he said. He's conflating issues, I think probably intentionally so, there by saying, hey, this is like a theocracy
right
in the Middle East. That's what you're proposing, talking to the witness there. Who was the fellow who was testifying?
It was Barnes, and he's the nominee for a position in government. So this was
a hearing about his
yes
nomination.
Yes.
Okay, so Kane's intentionally trying to scare people by saying, "Hey, this Republican nominee here, these people are for a theocracy."
Well, can I also add to this discussion the fact that Senator Kaine wanted to point out what Islam believes and what they do in Islamic countries.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Is kind of to the point, because the liberties we enjoy in this country and throughout the West are because of Christianity.
Right.
Not because of Islam, not because of Buddhism or Hinduism.
Good point.
So he, in a strange, backhanded way,
right,
strengthened the argument that you cannot have liberty in Western countries without Christianity.
Right.
Now, that does not mean that we tell everyone they have to be baptized.
Right.
And you got to convert from Islam. In fact, the religious liberty we enjoy in this country is precisely because the founders believed that the right to conscience and the right to freedom of religion was a gift from God. Yeah. And government should protect that.
Yeah.
And Christianity allows the Christianity you're referring to that influenced early American law and history and our founding fathers and so forth, that they cited the Christian religion often, that allows for freedom for other religions.
Yes.
But if you go to an Islamic country, for example, you don't have the freedom for other religions.
Yeah.
Typically because they just don't allow for it. They would consider that to be promoting, false religions,
right,
so forth. So, if you want freedom and liberty, you're going to get it from Christian values.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
I agree. I was shocked that Senator Tim Kaine would compare the stand that Barnes is taking, Ted Cruz is taking, to the Islamic regime in Iran.
Right.
And he's likening what Jefferson said in writing the Declaration of Independence.
I know.
Right.
Do you think he's ignorant of this, or you think this is purposeful?
I think it's purposeful. Here's the reason. Not one Democrat, to the best of my knowledge, has condemned what Tim Kaine said last week.
Well, they believe it.
Yeah.
I'm convinced they believe it.
They use this to try to scare the general public. Okay. Sometimes it works. I mean the Democrats, not all of them, but a lot of them, like Tim Kaine, they want to scare the general public into believing that the Republican Party, which is backed by a lot of people like that are evangelical Christians, they want to impose their religion, that they would say, I'm talking about Christians, on the rest of America, so that we do want. The reason they say this is, yes, the people like AFA and AFR, they do want forced baptisms, and Christianity or that's what they want to scare the general public into believing about people like us.
And let me do just a little commercial here, folks. I'm gonna make a statement here. What Senator Tim Kaine said in articulating his hostility towards the Christian faith and his hostility towards the Declaration of Independence and our founders is part and parcel now a part of the progressive movement in this country. So here's what I meant by a commercial. If you go to resources.afa.net, that is where you can get all kinds of great resources that we provide, that God has given us the opportunity to create videos and CDs and DVDs and written material. If you go to resources.afa.net and search for the word progressive, all right? Now, I say it's a commercial because this is something I did, 10 years ago. A booklet, it's not that long. It was taken from a series of 6 articles, I think, that I wrote for the Stand magazine, our monthly magazine. And then we also followed that up with a DVD on the same material. It is called The Progressive Threat to the American Republic. Okay, so just go to resources.afa.net and search under the word progressive. And I don't know. I forget how much it doesn't cost much at all for both the booklet and the DVD. Folks, I did a lot of research on this. Abe Hamilton has done a lot of research on it. You hear him talk about these kinds of things quite a bit on his program. You would be shocked. All right, $7.50. Okay, I mean, we're talking this is very reasonably priced. You would be shocked at what the progressive movement has said in its early formative years about the founders, about our republic, and about God. And you need to get armed for the truth. You can actually pick up the pamphlets. I don't know, whatever, 5 or 6 at a time. They come bundled for a very reasonable price. But go to resources.afa.net, resources.afa.net, and search for progressive. But this kind of ideology is either going to destroy America or it's going to destroy the Democratic Party, one or the other, because they are all in. You remember, I'm sorry, I get fired up about this, President Obama talking about the conservatives in this country. They cling to God and guns.
Yes.
Their Bibles, I think he said.
Yes, the Bibles.
Cling to their Bibles. This is the mentality of the now completely secular, anti-founders, anti-God Democratic Party.
Yeah. To your point, Ed, last week, the task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. This was something that was set up by President Trump shortly after coming back into office, and it was headed by Attorney General Pam Bondi. Fox News reported, they said they got a peek at this report last week, and it outlines examples of what the Biden administration did to Christians. For example, Christians praying outside abortion clinics, arrested. All right? And several other examples. We reported on the fines the Biden Justice Department leveled against Liberty University, $14 million. Grand Canyon University, $37.7 million. And of course, you know, since especially the Grand Canyon University fine, that was totally dropped last week because they did nothing wrong. Those are just two examples of this report. What is it about Christians? And what is it about the Democratic Party that they're now fighting any laws against shipping the abortion pills across state lines? Why are they so in on men playing in girls' sports?
Why are they drifting, and not just drifting now, speeding towards socialism?
Oh, yes.
We're probably going to have a socialist or communist mayor of New York City. It's because communism is antithetical to and hostile to God.
Yes. We're gonna deal with that story because Mamdani and Bernie Sanders were out on the weekend talking about this. Folks, you're going to want to listen to this. Talking about universal medical care, socialized medicine, all of these things, government-run grocery stores.
Right.
I don't know if you guys even need me.
No, I'm sorry. I should have.
I should
have let the president have a say. I get fired up on this issue.
Yeah, no, really.
Yeah. I know. It's shocking, isn't it?
You had it well. Monotone. You're so monotone.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
anyway, no.
be a long week.
I just have everything you just said, Fred said. I just say amen to. And all right, we'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
In 1782, James Price, a British scientist, announced that he had discovered a method of changing base metals into silver and gold. He was honored by King George III, and his accomplishment was acclaimed by many. But when members of the Royal Society asked him to repeat his experiment, his response was committing suicide by drinking poison. Now, what's that got to do with us? Well, you know, many people are like that when it comes to public worship. They boast about their ability to worship the Creator at home or traveling or fishing or on the golf course or any other number of places. They don't need to attend public worship, they say. But when it comes time to back up their boasting with facts, they often find that they commit suicide of their souls. I can think of 3 good, solid reasons why we should attend public worship regularly. First of all, there's the need for fellowship. Man cannot live alone. He needs fellowship with others. John Donne once wrote, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." This is true of worship as well as other areas of life. James Clark stated in a newsletter for Presbyterian men, "Man is a religious animal, and if he holds aloof from public worship, he starves and stunts his highest instincts. If a man is to come to his full stature, he must come to it inside the church." Of course, he meant the fellowship of the church and not the church building. The second need for public worship is that of scholarship. Rare indeed is the person who grows in his knowledge and understanding of our Maker apart from the church. I've met several people who have stated that they had no need for the church, that they could make it by myself. I don't know what they were making of themselves, but it was not persons true to the Creator's desire. They usually ended up making self-serving individuals. The other reason that I feel the need for public worship is exactly that, worship. Man will instinctively worship something. How he directs his instincts will determine what he worships. Without the guidance and direction which comes from public worship, he usually satisfies his hunger with some substitute for the real God. Of course, one reason so many stay away from public worship is that it's a threat to them. They may have to change, and change comes slowly and reluctantly for many. It's a dangerous thing to attend public worship for those who are satisfied with themselves. There is always the chance God will break through their protective shield and soften their resistive spirit. These, then, are the reasons I believe in public worship. I call them the 3 ships: fellowship, scholarship, and worship. I know I can't make silver and gold from base metals, and I certainly don't want to commit suicide of my soul. It's the most lasting part of me I have.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Matthew 19:14.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR, and I'm Tim with Ed and Fred, and we have a gallery from the Ingomar Baptist Church, right? And Ingomar Baptist Church, and we have a bunch of folks visiting with us. I don't think any of them are employed. Huh?
You said they all look retired?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of seniors visiting us here, and we love for folks to come and visit us here. The Ingomar, Mississippi Baptist Church is visiting us with their roving retirees, right?
Is that what they call them?
That's what they call themselves, the roving retirees. So anyway, welcome to those folks. And if you want to visit us here in our studios, if you're local or if you're traveling from around the country, we have folks come in from all over the country who are traveling and want to stop and see our offices and our building and our studios and meet some of our staff, we welcome that. All you need to do is go. We have a lottery for this, and so you need to go. You have to enter like $20, something like that, and then you put your name in that.
Like if you're going elk hunting in Wyoming or something.
Yeah,
you gotta get your name picked
You gotta
out.
get your name. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
How do they? If we do want to know if folks are coming by, right?
Absolutely. So you go to afa.net, and you look at the little list of drop-down menus at the top.
Yeah.
Go to where it says More, and a little drop-down menu will pop up, and you go down to Visits. And you got to fill out a little form. We just got to make sure you're not running from the law. And so,
or if you are, we just want to know about it.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So just go to afa.net, More, and then the drop-down menu has Visits, and we'll get you started. Another reason is, too, we want to make sure there's people here. Sometimes on Friday afternoons, for example, might not be a lot of folks here. If you want to meet some of the people who are regularly on the air, you want to come at a time of the day and of the week when some of those folks will be available.
Did have an incident in a terrorist attack in Jerusalem this morning.
That
right?
is correct.
Or this morning, our time.
Yes, some Palestinian terrorists, to be exact, attacked people who were waiting for a bus. They were at a bus stop there in Jerusalem.
A public bus.
Yes. And they opened fire, and 6 people died. Several people were injured. If you've been to Jerusalem, you've been to Israel, you know that it is not uncommon for people on the street to have guns. I'm talking about Jewish people who live there. And 2 people who were witness to this drew their guns, and they took out the bad guys right away.
Yeah, if you're in the military, active military, you carry your weapon with you all the time in Israel. It's pretty common for them to do that. But yeah, that took place at a public bus stop this morning in Jerusalem. You're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. What's your next story, Fred?
Well, Zoran Mamdani.
Who?
Zoran Mamdani.
Yes.
All right. If you don't know who that is, I think you're going to very shortly, because he is on the Democratic ticket to be the next mayor of New York. And if you believe all the polls, he is still way out in front. And so likely within a couple of months, the election there will be occurring. In November, he will likely be the next mayor. To say that he is a far left, a socialist, is not an exaggeration. Self-declared. Well, he and his good friend, Senator Bernie Sanders, who is officially an independent, but he's really a radical Democrat.
And a self-identified socialist.
Yes. Bernie Sanders and Mamdani held a rally this weekend. Here's a little bit of what they had to say. Cut 5.
Together we will freeze make buses fast and deliver universal. We will freeze make buses fast and deliver universal.
They're afraid of Mr. Mamdani becoming an example to what can happen all over this country.
Now, if you couldn't hear, the crowd responded as Mamdani was cheering them on. They talked about universal medical care, free buses. Now, they didn't mention grocery stores, but
were they talking about freezing what?
Free buses.
Free buses.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The government's going to give you everything, Ed. You know, just hand it to you.
You need to free those buses. You know what I'm saying? That's what they were chanting.
Free the buses.
What he's talking about there is public transit, I think.
Yeah.
And so you have to pay a fee to ride the metro, the subway or the public buses. I think he's talking about people need to get use them free. Everything he's talking about, the free medical care, wouldn't that be nice?
Oh yeah.
Everything these people, by these people I mean these socialists talk about. By socialists, I'm talking about these folks like him who think everything needs to be, paid for by taxes.
Yes.
Free social.
So it's not really free.
not really free.
Cost
It's just
somebody.
that it's paid for by taxation, and taxation is they're going to hit people who make money, right?
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see, because how many millionaires or how many people that are going to be hit with these heavy taxes when this guy gets in to be the mayor of New York City, how many of them are going to leave the city?
Yeah.
And I don't know. There used to be some kind of, maybe I'm dreaming this, some kind of rules where even if you left a place to escape high taxation, retroactive, like a year or 2 or 3, you could still be hit with taxes. In other words, they know what you're trying to do.
Yes.
By getting out of Dodge before the heavy taxes hit, and they can go back on you, they meaning like the city of New York, for example, and tax you as if you still live there. I've heard that.
Right.
Well, Gavin Newsom has talked about that. You have so many people leaving California right now.
Yes.
We're going to go after them.
We're going to go after
them. They made their company made their money here. We're going to go after them.
All right, listen, what you got going on in New York? Of course, New York's always been liberal. New York has always been well, I say always. They've been Democrat for the most part. You did have Rudolph Giuliani. You did have Michael Bloomberg. These were people who were mayors of the city of New York who were also Republicans, but it's very rare. They're basically a Democrat-run city. Now, but what you have is the people that are supporting the. You also have to consider this. We're talking New York City proper here, which is still, I don't know how many people, 5 million, something like that. Proper. You have the greater New York area, which is going to be, you're going to run into probably 12 to 20 million people when you start talking about the greater New York area. So, but the mayor's office will only be elected by the citizens of New York City proper. Well,
8.5 million
that are New York City proper.
New York City proper.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, you got 18 million that are, if you type in greater New York metropolitan area population. I know that's a lot of English there, but anyway, these people are very liberal, and
20 million.
20 million. Okay, I said 18. So it wouldn't surprise me if they vote this guy in. They really believe that you can offer free groceries, and they and you know what? I say go for it. They need if these people really believe this is the best way to go, to tax everybody, to pay for all this stuff.
Well, you can't give all this. This is a good news, bad news thing, Tim. You can give all this stuff free to people. That's the good news. The bad news is, as former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher famously said, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can give all this free stuff away.
He's also a soft on crime guy.
Yeah. But all that quote unquote free stuff is coming from taxes.
Yeah.
And eventually the well runs dry. And now you've made a bunch of people reliant on free stuff. And then what happens when the well runs dry?
You ever heard the expression, you can't tell those people nothing? You ever heard
Yes.
that? That's not good English, but it expresses
absolutely
the idea. And so, let them go for it. The people in Chicago, they don't care that they got crime. I'm talking about the majority of citizens of Chicago don't care that they got violent crime running wild. They just want to vote for the next guy who is soft on crime. So I don't know what you do for people like that, who don't care about their own self-interest.
You can't do anything for them. The book of Proverbs makes it clear that there are people who operate according to wisdom, and there are people who are foolish. And I don't know how people in Chicago, for example, continue to vote. They voted out they vote out one lefty.
Oh yeah, what was her name?
It'll come to me. Something Foot.
No, it was Lightfoot.
Was there foot in both?
Lightfoot. Was it Lightfoot?
Yeah, her name.
Lori Lightfoot?
I think that was her name, Lori Lightfoot.
All right.
Once upon a time, there was a mayor named Lori Lightfoot. She lived in Chicago.
And they voted Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah.
And we got the thumbs up from Brett Creeley, our producer. They voted her out, and then they voted someone even more liberal.
That's what I'm saying.
So
I'm saying. So how do you feel sorry for people like that? You know, you're voting against your own self-interest, but I guess they don't care. They don't care. So what do you? So that's when
they
Trump
care when they get carjacked, but up to that point they don't.
Yeah.
Well, and the larger question now is, which is why Bernie Sanders is there with Mamdani. Bernie Sanders.
How far did Bernie Sanders walk, by the way? Was this a walk?
No,
it wasn't a march.
No, there was a rally of some kind.
Okay.
All right. Now, Bernie Sanders, we can laugh at him sometimes, and we call him, the radical leftist.
Yeah.
But Bernie Sanders really believes this is not about just New York. This is about the whole Democratic Party.
This is a movement.
This is a movement. Cut 6.
Now, apropos that question, I find it hard to understand how the major Democratic leaders in New York State are not supporting the Democratic candidate. One might think that if a candidate starting at 2% in the polls gets 50,000 volunteers, creates enormous excitement, gets young people involved in the political process, gets non-traditional voters to vote, Democratic leaders will be jumping up and down. This is our guy. So we got another fight on our hands, and that is the future of the Democratic Party.
You know, after listening to Bernie Sanders, though, one thing I'd like to say is I don't want to hear people ever make fun of Southern accents again. Because I can hardly understand this fella here. So,
and listen, I'm just going to say he is a complete hypocrite, Bernie Sanders, because he had an opportunity during the primary season of 2020, leading up to the 2020 election.
Yeah.
He had an opportunity to take the Democratic Party in a socialist direction, stand up for his values, but instead he allowed himself to be bought off by the Democratic Party establishment when he dropped out and got behind Joe Biden.
That's true. The establishment.
The establishment. So I don't want to hear from well, I mean, I have no choice. We just played him. But I don't want to hear from Bernie Sanders about the Democratic Party, sticking to its principles and going with the guy. Everything he just said about Mamdani was true about Bernie Sanders in 2020.
Yeah.
Remember, he had all these young people and all the, this movement, and he allowed himself to be bought off.
Yeah. All right. Next story, Fred. What's your next story?
All right. Well, meanwhile, President Trump.
Back in Gotham City.
Gotham City. Meanwhile, is Chicago Gotham kind of like Gotham City?
New York.
I think New York's Gotham City, right?
Yeah.
That was the model
Batman,
for Gotham City.
I think they're in a fight, though, for each other. Chicago, who can go further to the left? And Trump is a favorite target of those leftists. But he's talking about, we've heard from the mayor of Chicago, Johnson. We've heard from the governor of Illinois. They don't want Donald Trump to send soldiers into Chicago to deal with the crime. By the way, 6 murders in Chicago this past weekend and about a dozen other people wounded. All right?
It's probably a light weekend.
Yeah. But the governor and the mayors say everything's okay. We got everything under control. But Trump now, like he did in Los Angeles back about a month or so ago, is poised apparently to send in ICE agents to deal with illegals because Trump believes, and rightly so, that many illegal immigrants are part of the crime problem. Here's cut number 1 of Trump talking about immigration in Chicago.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
Well, Tom Homan, his border czar, who is taking on the fight of dealing with the millions of illegals in this country, he says much the same thing. Yeah, we're going to go into Chicago like we have gone into other cities to deal with the number of illegal immigrants. Cut number 2.
Should we expect action in Chicago this week?
Absolutely. You can expect action in most sanctuary cities across the country.
We're going to war with the criminal cartels. We're going to war with illegal aliens, public safety threats that rape children, that raped citizens, that committed armed robberies, that distribute narcotics that kill Americans.
So there you have it. We're probably going to have a confrontation. There was a huge demonstration against Trump sending in any soldiers / ICE agents. Huge demonstration on the weekend. But I think it's coming. There's going to be a confrontation.
Well, and these are two different things, and the left and the media to some extent are conflating these two things, and those two things are the National Guard on the one hand or ICE agents on the other looking for people in these sanctuary cities who are here illegally. There are still constitutional, other legal questions about President Trump's authority to send in the National Guard without any ask on the part of a governor of a state or the mayor of a city. That's still kind of up in the air as to what the president can do. But he's absolutely on legal ground to send in ICE. And a mayor of a city or a governor have absolutely nothing to say about that. If there are people breaking federal law, ICE has the legal right, constitutional right, to go into these cities. So those are two kind of separate issues, but the left tries to conflate them to make it look like ICE is the military coming in to these cities. It's not. These are duly authorized federal agents, just like the FBI.
Yeah.
So,
all right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Yeah, speaking of soft-on crime cities, which are almost all the big cities, with very few exceptions, because they all vote Democrat, and Democrats are soft on crime. Did you guys see the video? It's hard to even talk about. There's a video. Remember the story about a few weeks ago?
August 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
August 22nd, 3 weeks ago, there was a story out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and there was a young Ukrainian girl who was on a bus, public bus, I think, and she was attacked by a guy, and he murdered her with a like a pocket knife.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing this story?
Oh yeah.
I this over the weekend. You're talking about the video that was released?
Yes, the video.
Now, that was recent, though, right? The release of the video?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, it's horrific to watch. They don't show the actual murder on that video, but they do have that on video because there was a camera on the bus. But the guy who killed her, murdered her, had been in and out of jail like 14 times. Fred, do you have his rap sheet there in front of you?
I don't have his rap sheet, but you're right. He has been in and out of the legal system 14 times.
Did you see the video? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I saw the video, yes.
Okay, well, because this young lady, as it turns out, was a Ukrainian. Was she an immigrant or was she?
She had just fled to this country.
Okay.
To get away from the violence in Ukraine
because of the war.
Yes, she was on this transit. I think they have a transit train there in Charlotte. She was, I think, just got off work. She was sitting in front of this guy. She was looking at her cell phone, scrolling through her cell phone.
That's another issue I want to talk about, but go ahead.
Yes. The guy is sitting behind her. He just gets up and he proceeds to kill this young woman. He has been in and out of the legal system.
Yeah, I've got his rap sheet here. This is DeCarlos Brown.
DeCarlos
the man
Brown.
who's accused. We do say accused, but he's on video.
He's on video.
Doing this heinous act. Records obtained by the New York Post showed that Brown has a history of arrests going back more than a decade, including charges of felony larceny, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and communicating threats. So he's got a long
My question to you, Ed, is I don't know if there's an answer to this or not, or a provable answer to this, but and we all read about this in our newspapers and see it on our local TV channels. this is not necessarily just a blue state problem, and that is, why do these violent criminals get put back out on the streets so easily? I mean, this guy right here who murdered this girl, he had 14 arrests. Isn't that what you just said? Now, I don't know what they all were for.
I don't know. I've heard the number 14. This is what I saw was more than a decade, including charges of felony larceny, robbery with a dangerous weapon, communicating threats. I don't know the number. You may have seen that actually.
I think
somewhere.
I did see 14 arrests. Yeah. I did see that.
So
this happens all the time, and you just go, why are these people back on the street? Now this young lady's dead. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna answer that question, and then Fred has something that people are saying in defending this guy, if you can believe it. But what seems to be happening in these big cities is they blame society for producing the criminals. They have lenient district attorneys, many of whom have been elected in recent election cycles, funded by George Soros, who wants to bypass Congress and make quote-unquote changes on the local level. So these are district attorneys who will not charge people or go for maximum sentences. They are frequently
go for maximum sentences.
Yes, on people who are arrested.
Oh, you mean they will not go?
They will not. The district attorneys will not.
Who they're supposed to be representing the public and prosecuting the crime.
Yes.
And you're saying they don't care.
They think the criminals are actually the victims of racism.
This is the fox guarding the chicken coop, so to speak. Okay.
And then you've got maybe judges who are not giving long sentences. They go, these people, even when they're convicted, a lot of times they get a 7-year sentence, but they're released after a year.
Yeah, why is that? That's what I want to know the answer to.
It is the soft on crime ideology of the left that governs these blue cities.
But it even happens in red states. I'm just saying, I read the Tupelo, Mississippi news, and I see the same type thing where I'm going like, this guy killed this person and he's been arrested 17 times. And you're going like, how is he out of prison? How is he out of jail? That's my question.
Well, the philosophy seems to be, and in this case in Charlotte, there was actually a GoFundMe account set up not for the girl, but for the guy who's now charged.
Carlos Brown.
Yes,
Brown.
There was a GoFundMe. Now, fortunately, GoFundMe has taken this down.
Yes, but speak to the mentality of the people who were giving to this GoFundMe.
Because they called him a victim.
Yes.
He's a victim of the system. And that's to your point.
What do they mean by that?
Well, somehow, here's a scenario.
Yeah. Tell me the thinking.
They grew up in poverty, and they didn't have the brakes that other people had.
And that turned them to a life of crime.
Yes, that turned them to drugs. See, it's not his fault. He turned to drugs because grew up poor, broken family, all that sort. So the perpetrator of the crime becomes the victim. Same thing happened on Friday. Jeanine Pirro, who is now the U.S. District Attorney in D.C., they announced the arrest of 2 kids who've already, broken other laws. 2 kids.
In Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C. for the murder of that intern in the summer.
Yeah.
She calls them thugs.
Yeah.
Because immediately the media started to say, well, these kids are victims. You can't treat them like adults. She said, no, I'm charging them with murder.
And they're 17-year-olds, and people are defending them, saying they should not be charged as adults.
Yeah.
But Pirro, thankfully, saying, no, that's old enough to know better.
Yes.
You're going to be charged as adults.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a time out right here. We will be back in 5 minutes with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
The enemy has pulled out all the stops to try to destroy the family for a very long time. That's why the American Family Association stands boldly in the gap to protect and strengthen this God-breathed institution. Visit afa.net today and discover the resources available for you and your family. And if you would, please take a minute to show your support. That's afa.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty P. President Trump speaking this morning at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, emphasizing the need for religious liberty.
When faith gets stronger, as it is right now, we're having a very good period of time. After some rough years, good things happen for our country. It's amazing the way it seems to work that way. And under the Trump administration, we're defending our rights and restoring our identity as a nation under God. We are one nation under God, and we always will be.
He also took issue with Virginia's Tim Kaine over his comments about religious liberty.
The need for this commission has never been more clear than it was last week when the ineffectual senator from Virginia, a man named Tim Kaine, stated that the notion our rights come from our Creator is, quote, extremely troubling to him. Very troubling, isn't it troubling? Isn't that terrible, though? But as everyone in this room understands, it is tyrants who are denying our rights and the rights that come from God. And it's this Declaration of Independence that proclaims we're endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The senator from Virginia should be ashamed of himself.
Senator Bernie Sanders appeared with the Democrat Socialist candidate for mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, over the weekend, and said the candidate's vision for socialism should be the future for the Democratic Party.
Together we will freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal. We will freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal.
They're afraid of Mr. Mamdani becoming an example to what can happen all over this country.
But even CNN can't handle Mamdani's idea of government-run grocery stores.
In Kansas City, where they had a government-run grocery store, and it's been there for years, but it's on the verge of closing because it doesn't work. Frankly, the government is not that good at being in the business of being in grocery stores. So what do you say to that example?
We have to prove not only the efficacy, but the excellence of this idea. Because for every one example that you can point to, there's another of another municipality today considering opening a city-run grocery store. But to me, the most important thing is the outcome. This is something I believe will work.
Florida Senator Rick Scott knows a little about government-run grocery stores.
I grew up in Kansas City where this store closed, and I grew up in the grocery business. I worked there. My friends own grocery stores. They told me about this. It never worked. Government run anything. What does government run well? Name one thing.
An immigration attorney believes an appeals court decision keeping dangerous illegal alien gang members from being deported will eventually be overturned.
By a 2-1 vote, a 3-judge panel from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that President Trump cannot use the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport dangerous Venezuelan gang members back to their homeland. The appeals panel upheld a ruling from a lower court judge that the statute was not intended to be used against gangs like Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan group Trump targeted in his March invocation. The decision bars deportations from Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Art Arthur is a resident fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies.
I think that this is one of those cases that the U.S. government is going to either seek Supreme Court review on or will ask the full Fifth Circuit to weigh in on this. But one way or the other, this case is going to end up at the Supreme Court, and it was always going to end up at the Supreme Court because no lower court decision was really going to resolve the Trump administration's novel use of the Alien Enemies Act to remove gang members from the United States.
Arthur thinks it's going to be a tight case at the Supreme Court.
I think the Supreme Court is probably going to be a little nervous about expanding an act that dates the 18th century to cover these people. But I think that the Trump administration will have the better part of that argument in that these removals will stand.
I'm Chad Groening.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildmon and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim with Ed, and Chris Woodward now joins us. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
I'm going to start calling you Chris Plaid Woodward. You're donning the plaid this morning.
You can do what you want to, Mr. President.
Okay. So not many people wear plaid anymore, do they? Or am I just?
I only have a few.
Just those old souls that
That's all right.
want to bring plaid back.
You know what? When you hear old soul, you picture me.
I have some plaid.
Yeah.
I have some plaid shirts.
Yeah.
Chris. But then again, I'm really
I
old.
don't have any. I don't think I have. Well, I'm trying to think in my
Maybe
closet.
the back of your closet somewhere.
Yeah, maybe some plaid.
In a lonely corner.
Yeah, there's a plaid from
plaid.
1984.
Yeah.
All right,
it's got Oshkosh Bagosh or some what would have been big 40 years ago.
Hey, watch your language, Chris.
Yeah.
This is a family show.
What was the clothing? There was a clothing brand for like kids back in the day.
Oshkosh.
Where,
No, that's true.
but like you could match like it was like animal prints or whatever, and you could match.
Garanimals.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. Flashback Monday.
I thought those were. Aren't those like the little cookies?
Little.
Yeah.
Little animal cookies.
Yeah.
What are they called?
Granimals.
Yeah, aren't they called granimals?
No.
Huh?
No, listen.
Those things are good. Now I
nothing
can
better
eat a
than
box,
animal
no
crackers.
Animal crackers.
Yeah.
I remember when we used to give animal crackers to our grandchildren. No, to our children.
Yeah.
Because I got grandchildren now. Anyway, I give them to our children, or for the nursery, church nursery.
Yeah.
I probably sinned because I ate those things instead of giving them to the children.
Well, they don't need at that age.
Should I feel bad about that, or is that long ago?
It doesn't sound like you. Doesn't sound like you'd be sincere, feeling badly about it.
Did you ever?
Oh, listen, my wife and I go to babysit our grandkids. There's a pantry, little small pantry, little closet kind of thing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Where they have some of the snacks. So I go to the pantry when we're babysitting to see what snacks are available, for the whole family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
you're just going to check them out to make sure.
And they have a big tub. It looks like it's not a glass jar, but it's a big plastic jar with a little
spin-off.
Yeah, a little
a lid. A lid.
Yeah, thank you. A lid.
You're welcome. That's a hard word.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm falling apart. But it's all animal cookies, and I'll take that thing into the recliner.
I hear you,
with
brother.
some of the grandkids. Come on, get some, and one for you, one for me.
Well, and then one for you, two for me.
But it's not like those little boxes, the little circus boxes anymore. It's
That's what.
Big.
Oh, they don't
jars.
do those anymore. Those aren't
they
available.
may, but that's not what my son and daughter-in-law have.
All
They
right.
have the big jar.
Anyway,
with the lid.
I always wondered if I should have felt bad about taking the animal cookies from the children.
You can if you want.
Yeah. But I was watching the nursery, so it was kind of payback.
No sense being a hypocrite.
I didn't get paid squat. So
that's what I always say.
What's that? No sense of being a hypocrite.
If you like the cookies, don't pretend like you feel guilty when you eat them.
Yeah.
Since it is
thank you,
confession
Ed.
time.
Appreciate it. What Chris share with us?
Yeah, since it is confession time, I have we used to have like a walk-in pantry, and I've walked in there before and like shut the doors, and I'm sitting there like eating the junk food after supper, to hide from the kids.
Listen, I have to sneak when we babysit. I have to sneak around and get sips of my Diet Coke because my grandkids, if they see it, I want some. I want even the little one. And I have to pretend like I'm pouring it into their little sippy cup.
Yeah.
And it's just the amount of deception that goes on. around my grandkids is just enormous.
Have you and your wife ever spelled like when your kids were little? Did you and your wife
sure.
ever spell things because you're
course.
trying to get around your kids? That happened to me one time. I have 2 daughters, and somehow like my wife and I were talking about how the youngest hadn't maybe eaten enough for CAKE, and my oldest daughter, who could spell at that point, was like, "Why can't she have any cake?"
Yes,
and then it was downhill.
It's bad when someone has learned to spell.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what's bad is when you use that trick. Of course, when you learn your grandchildren can spell.
Yes.
And they tell you exactly what you're saying. Of course, you're saying that, but then when you slip into spelling around your dog.
Oh no, we do that.
So I'm not the only.
You're not the only one. Because I'll ask my wife. I said, Mara is my daughter's dog. Has Mara been O-U-T? Because if you say the word out,
okay, then
she gets all excited.
We do that too, but Allison and I with our little Maltese dog, but and he's like 12, so he understands half the English language, So you're like going, you spell words because they do recognize words.
Yeah, you can't say the word leash,
right?
Because then she goes crazy. Then now you got to take her for a walk, or she won't leave you.
Right.
Alone.
It's people think that's not. I don't know. There's a certain amount of words that dogs can understand. Yeah, and so you don't want to say it in front of them. You want to spell it out.
Right.
All right, Chris.
Well,
what's your first story here?
Well, speaking of spelling, many people learn how to spell at schools, and there has been a big story in Florida for several days now. We've covered this with a couple of different groups. We'll continue to cover it because on our website, afn.net, in recent days, the Surgeon General of Florida announced that he was going to be working to eliminate the mandate for all childhood vaccine requirements, and a lot of people were very concerned about this, saying it's going to bring people to danger if kids and adults are not going to be vaccinated. The Surgeon General has since come back with an update outlining what he's talking about. Florida's plan to drop school vaccine mandates likely will not take effect for 90 days and would include only chickenpox and a few other illnesses unless legislators decide to extend it to other diseases like polio and measles. So the concern that all of a sudden kids and other people aren't going to be vaccinated for things like polio and measles may have turned out to be a big fat nothing. And that is something that we were talking about with Ray last Thursday when I brought this in, the announcement from the Surgeon General, because Ray said, look, I'm in favor of some vaccines here, and a lot of people have said as much to us since last Thursday when we began covering this.
Listen, I am not a scientist. I'm not like Tim. Tim is he's good at science.
Ed, you're embarrassing me, man.
Yes.
Don't bring that up. I don't want any. You know what I'm saying? I don't want people.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just an average person.
Yes. No. And every Friday, Tim makes it clear that science is his thing. Okay. That's not me.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So here's the way I've always approached these things. I rely upon the medical and scientific community to do the research and tell us what they know or what they believe to be true. Mm-hmm. Okay. But after COVID, the amount of trust I have has disintegrated. All right. Now I'm asking questions like, is the medical / scientific community, are they beholden to big pharma, the pharmaceutical companies? Mm-hmm. So I would be willing, if we could get real science that's not influenced by payoffs or influenced by grant money that could disappear if you don't produce the study results that the corporation wants, if we could get real scientific and real health information, okay, I'm more willing to accept that, but I don't know who to trust anymore.
Very true.
And that's not on me.
Yeah.
That is on the medical and scientific and political communities who did what they did during COVID. So this is your payback.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you should come clean. And we need to break the stranglehold that much of the medical community and health community and scientific community has on corporate money.
Right. It was almost a miracle that as many Americans believed in what doctors and scientists said before COVID because, ours is a nation born out of mistrust. We didn't like what the British monarchy was telling us, so we formed our own government. And before we even did that, we laid out all these things that government can't do to us, knowing that somebody down the road was going to be a tyrant and infringe upon our rights. So Americans are born not trusting somebody.
Right.
I think that's part of the reason why, even before COVID, many Americans were like, I don't believe you, or I'm going to look into that myself.
Listen, this is the problem that the mainstream media has, is they have destroyed their own credibility by clearly picking sides when they report and when they put forth information, stories, what have you. So these are self-inflicted wounds on the part of people that we should be able to trust but don't. And as far as, listen, I don't know how to sift through this information on vaccines for polio and for measles and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know people who say, well, I've read the studies. Well, are you trained in this? Okay, well, then why is your opinion any more than mine? Americans are looking for people they can trust. I like a lot of what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been saying, but I don't know if he's right either. So I'm following all this discussion that is going on. I'm not sure where it's going to wind up. I have a feeling that maybe a lot of people are throwing out the vaccine baby with the vaccine bathwater. But I don't know, and I don't know. You like that? I don't know how to sort through this.
See what you did there.
Yeah,
that was funny. Throwing out the what did you say?
The vaccine baby with the vaccine bathwater.
Yes, there
was a touch.
That
of
was
brilliance.
original. It was a touch of brilliance.
Yeah, touch.
Hey, speaking of scientists being wrong, and doctors, and experts, so-called experts, who you suspect have a political agenda.
Yes.
And that's what makes people question the so-called experts about things, is when they prove to be politically driven rather than factually driven.
Right.
Okay. I saw this over the weekend. I'm reading now from the what's the name of this? Is this the Daily Signal?
Yeah, that's Heritage Foundation's news site.
Okay, the Daily Signal. And I read it in other places too, but the headline says, sea levels not surging despite years of climate activists and corporate media freaking out. That's the headline. Study finds. So this is from the Journal of Marine Science and Engineering, which I used to write for, but that's that's a whole nother story. That would take us off. That would be a diversion to take us off topic. So they published the peer-reviewed study on August 27th by these two Dutch engineering consultants or whatever. They're very smart people. The study concluded that the reason I bring this up is because we've all heard that the oceans are going to rise, right?
Right.
I'm posting
because the polar
sea levels,
the ice caps are going to melt.
Cities will disappear
because of global warming.
Yeah.
We've all heard that for 20 years now?
Yes.
All the way back to Al Gore?
Inconvenient truth.
Yeah, okay. Well, guess
90s.
what? The study concluded that the average rate of sea level rise in 2020 was well below other widely cited analysis, and that when projections were compared with the local data, there was little evidence climate change was driving the acceleration seen in a few regions.
Right.
In other words, these two scientists, they went around the world and they used a tape measure, for lack of a better word. Tape measure, I'm using that metaphorically. They did their test, but in essence, what they found was there were like 6 inches of rise in like 100 years or something like that.
Right.
In the ocean. So this says overall, the study indicates that in most places, sea levels are not rising unusually quickly. In the relatively few locations where sea levels are rising faster than average, the cause is almost certainly local factors such as land subsidence or ground complications. They go on to say global sea levels are currently rising more slowly than they have for years, for much of the time since the last ice age ended, a period that which seas rose more than 400 feet. Any possible increase in the recent rate of rise compared with the past century is small, within the margin of error, and not outside of historical patterns. So I bring that up and I quote that to say that those of us on the conservative side have grown to be very skeptical of the professional organizations in the worlds of medicine and science. Am I right?
Correct.
Because we think our first default is to think, okay, why are these people saying this, and are they promoting a leftist agenda by using science to try to scare people? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
And scare people, when you say agenda, to accomplish a political end.
Right. So how do you get people, I'm just asking, I'm throwing this out there. How do you get people to change their behavior? Well, one of the ways you get them to change their behavior is you scare them to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Fear does work in moving an individual or a society. And so how do you scare the American people away from capitalism? Well, you tell them that if we don't embrace global control of the climate by imposing all these rules and regulations on the American people, and the world's supposed to go along, but we know China and India, the top polluters in the world, they don't care. But Americans are supposed to conform to all these rules and regulations because the global warming is going to kill us all, Ed.
Yeah.
And then when you learn, let me finish this. And then when you learn that these scientists are politically driven because they want to, for whatever reason, maybe they're being bought off, or they don't get a grant that they're supposed to get unless they cite global warming as a huge risk to mankind. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the problem for these folks you're talking about in terms of the climate scientists is going to be the same problem as we're talking about on the COVID and the media. They're going to lose credibility.
Yes.
And then when they have a real issue they want to discuss, guess what? No one's going to believe them.
Little boy that cried wolf.
That's right. So I think we're going to find out in the next 10 to 20 years that this global warming, this global climate change agenda is not true.
Right.
Amen.
And then who's going to believe the experts after that?
Right. One big reason why people believe what they believe about climate change is because news outlets tell them this is the way it is. And many news outlets like the Associated Press or the BBC, places around the world with big reputations and have been around for a long time, a lot of those places no longer interview or include comments from skeptics when it comes to climate change. This right here is not new. It's an announcement from 3 years ago, but I've covered it. Steve Jordahl's covered it. We will continue to cover it. Back in February of 2022, the Associated Press, which everybody and their brother with a news outlet runs to some extent, announced in February of 2022 that they were launching, I'll just read it here. The Associated Press says it is assigning more than 24 journalists across the world to cover climate issues in the news organization's largest single expansion paid for through philanthropic grants. Those grants are coming from organizations and individuals that tell you climate change is real,
right?
Which is why you cannot believe anything the Associated Press tells you.
Because the Associated Press is not going to publish stories that bites the hand, causes them to bite the hand that feeds them.
Exactly.
I'm surprised they admitted that.
Yeah. Well, and the sad thing is, a lot of people don't realize this, but particularly in medium to small markets, they just run whatever the AP says.
Right.
They don't change any of it. Now, AFN does have AP material. We have a contract with the AP, but Fred and I and Parrish, we take painstaking steps to edit out a lot of the garbage, and if it's just too much garbage, it doesn't make our website. We will cover, like I'll call a skeptic today with this story that Tim read from the Daily Signal, and I'll include a little bit about what the researchers claim, but we're going to have the but that the AP won't give you, and that's the difference between us and AFN.
Well, was it, President Trump did the right thing. He took the U.S. out of they call them Paris Accords? Because he rightly said, you know what? All this is meant to do is punish America.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They want these global climate change people. All they want, advocates. All they want, really, not all they want, but a lot of what they want is to handcuff the American industries, businesses, oil and gas and coal, and they want to handcuff these folks so that they can control them. Well, how do they control them? They scare the general public into believing that using these products causes global warming.
Exactly.
And we're all going to burn up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that's always been unproven. And a lot of the projections by these people, like Al Gore said, didn't he say the Arctic was going to melt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Snow was going to be a thing of the past.
By now,
Mm-hmm.
by a long time ago.
I think he said like within 5 years.
And the oceans are going to rise, and it's going to wipe out.
Right.
It's going to wipe out coastlines in the U.S.
That's
Remember
right.
that? Well, it's not happening.
Right.
And we have discussed this on the show before, but part of what kept the American people from believing all this nonsense was the actual actions of the people promoting climate change.
Amen, brother.
So the Obamas bought houses on the coastline.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
everyone goes, oh, well, I guess the ocean's not going to rise that much, is it?
And Al Gore and John Kerry fly around in private jets.
Exactly.
Which is supposed to be terrible for the environment.
Yeah.
And Al Gore had several houses, big houses.
Right. So they
vacation homes, and you go.
Their
well,
actions belie their words.
Yes.
Right. Do you remember the movie in the mid-'90s called The American President? Michael Douglas played the president.
Yeah.
It's a fictional movie. But part of that story or plot involved an environmental lobbyist played by Annette Bening. And then she's talking about how we need to pass this bill that would reduce fossil fuel emissions because of what it's doing to the climate.
Yeah.
That movie is from 30 years ago. You can watch that movie today and hear some of the same claims people are still warning about or making today. It's the same stuff throughout my lifetime.
Listen, the climate may be changing, but that's not. Is that anything new? I'm talking about change. May change, may become warmer or cooler here or there or the other, but it's not because I'm driving a car.
Well, and you find out what you just said is true when you hear actual debates between climate change skeptics and climate change proponents, and this is starting to happen more and more. The skeptic will ask the proponent, how much will the temperature come down if we do everything you are suggesting? And you never get an answer because there is no answer. And they can't answer that question. They can't say if we do X, Y, and Z for the next 10 years, temperature will come down 1 degree, because I think they know deep down inside, while human activity may contribute a certain percentage, this is mostly natural fluctuation.
And look at all these Hollywood and entertainment elites. They tell us all that it's almost universally agreed among that crowd that global warming is happening.
Yes.
And it's because of it's man-made. And then they go jetting off in their private jets all over the world without a thought or care in the world. But the little people are supposed to take the public buses.
Yes.
You know,
you
that's
think
how this
Annette
works.
Bening or Michael Douglas,
No.
not married to each other, you think they downsized their homes?
No.
And bulldoze their big energy sucking homes?
No.
Bulldoze them to save the planet? No.
Yeah. Excuse me. Long story short, the people that have been out there sounding the alarm about what they call man-made climate change have carbon footprints far bigger than any of us will ever have in our lifetimes combined.
Yeah.
And it
That's
will
why I
continue
mentioned
to.
Al Gore, who was criticized after an inconvenient truth.
Where did he go, by the way? I'm sorry,
He's still
Al Gore.
He's still out there campaigning,
and he's been
about
Is he
climate
really?
change. Oh,
yeah. One of the things that he is known for in recent years is he'll make statements. It's the same line at different venues, and he said it for several years now. Every night when you're watching the evening news, it's like a walk through the book of Revelations. Now, that's where I lose him. He says Revelations. That whenever I hear somebody mention the book of Revelations, I stop listening at that point because that's not what it's called.
It's Revelation.
Correct.
Revelation. Well, and listen, if it was true what he's saying, nobody should be watching the evening news.
Very true.
Because you got your TV on and your lights on. You should be burning a candle
Instead
and
of burning
reading a
down
book.
the planet.
Instead of burning down the planet.
Yeah.
Burning down the house.
I've been fired up all day.
That was the Carpenter's best hit.
Since the first beginning of this program.
1979.
Got me wound up about the commies. Hate the communists.
If somebody gets elected in New York, they may only have candles to burn.
Probably a good thing this show's ending. Right.
Probably, for my blood pressure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the program today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday afternoon, and we'll see you back tomorrow.
Have you ever wanted to take a boat ride on the